Hi guys, it's Angie Bell with HerballyHipTarot. How's my HerballyHip tribe doing out there? This is for entertainment purposes only, and everything we say here is allegedly. Okay, this is part 2, okay, of talking about Anya, Wick, Epstien, okay, and the cult of Ball. Please write that down because sometimes I forget the cult of Ball because I'm not used to saying the cult of Ball. And her name is Anya, Wick, Epstien. She is Epstein's niece, and what she's been talking about is how she and Epstein both grew up. They didn't grow up together, but their families are both in the cult of Ball. They are very much the elites of this country, and she's telling you how she grew up, and it's disgustingly horrible. Okay, and I think this is important for us to listen to her because we need to understand what we're dealing with. Okay, we all don't understand completely what we're dealing with Epstein and this Orange Menace. Okay, and Orange Menace is his best friend. And we've seen a bunch of stuff with the Orange Menace and his daughter that don't look right. Okay. And then he's been accused of rape over 20 times, Orange Menace. He has been convicted of sexual assault. I've seen a whole file on him that has been recorded about him and Epstein raping a 13-year-old. So it's set up. Let's go into part 2. Okay. So Anya says this. Okay, so we left off with when she would go on trips with her friends and stuff, she'd turn into this other person who's so nice and so friendly and everybody wanted to be around her. Okay, when she would go back home, she would be micro-drugged again and go back to the same old crap. And she'd go back to not being social again. Now, we're talking also, she's explaining basically what MK Ultra program is, okay? So she's still just explaining what the MK Ultra program is. Large doses, she would be given large doses of drugs when she was being sexually abused and microdoses every day. These doses were to keep her in line and for her to forget about the sexual abuse. She thought the sexual abuse was a nightmare fantasy world. This ensured she wasn't going to tell these drugs. Now, she didn't think her whole life that she was being sexually abused because the drugs were so bad that she basically hallucinated and didn't remember exactly what happened to her. But you remember a little bit, okay? You remember some. You remember this, you remember that. Because your brain wants to protect you, right? So it'll trying to make you forget things that are horrible. But she remembered things here and there that were nightmares. She thought these were nightmares. She did not think this really happened to her. She said she had PTSD. If her stepmother or her real mother would touch her, she'd freak out. Like she didn't want no one touching her ever. She was like she had PTS. She said she was misdiagnosed with bipolar. She believed all this stuff that happened to her was her own fault. She ended up going to drug rehab. Of course, all these kids end up on drugs because they're trying to forget what happened to them. And you're so imbalanced. You're chemically imbalanced when these horrible things are happening to you. So she said she went to drug rehab and they couldn't put it together what her trauma actually was. So they always go back to your childhood to find out what your trauma was to figure out maybe why you're doing drugs. Well, they were frustrated with her because she couldn't remember her childhood. She couldn't put it together. And then she said, as a part of this trauma everything that she experienced, it became a point to where she wanted to be a man. She wanted to be a man because being a woman meant being a sex slave. Okay, what she says she goes back to MK Ultra. She says MK Ultra is creating sex slaves with a severed memory. That's what MK Ultra is. Giving people such high doses of drugs that their memory. Now, think about this. Okay, that sounds so far-fetched, right? What did Bill Cosby do? He gave these women, he would drug them and then rape them. And they remember some of it, but not all of it. So this has been going on. This is not new. Puff Daddy did the same thing. He drugged people. In fact, he drugged a lot of men and then would tape it, and then he would threaten them that if they didn't pay, the tapes would go out. Okay, then she talks about this. The family separates twins and makes one a child star and makes the other one watch them on TV. And that was her. And that happened in their family a lot. Like her and Shia LaBeouf. That's her brother. She'd have to watch him be a movie star. And he was being sexually abused too the whole time, she says. And and it's a way to control, to separate either brother and sisters or twins. So you're always hoping and trying to do your best to get your brother back. And it's never going to happen until, maybe you're older and you can do it. But okay, she says forging trauma bonds forces more loyalty, like I just said. Victims, and then she says victims choose to be with other victims instead of speaking out. So she goes, a lot of times, a lot of victims just go together. Like look at Epstein and Maxwell. Look at the Orange Menace and Epstein. Okay, they're victims. And allegedly, and they go together. A lot of times they don't speak out like she is. Okay, and then she talks about MK Ultra again. She tells you that loyalty over truth. Okay, now this was huge. This was huge for me. Loyalty over truth. Who else, has beat it into the United States' head that he believes in loyalty over truth? Orange Menace. That's all he talks about is loyalty. Okay, he hired his whole cabinet on loyalty. They're not qualified whatsoever. That's who's running our country, a bunch of unqualified idiots. Because loyalty is his main thing, right? Is truth his main thing? No. He wants you loyal and being a liar. Does that sound like somebody that's probably in the cult of Baal? Allegedly. 1, 2, 3. Just 1 second, guys. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. I'm just trying to find out how many pages I've read so far. 2. Okay. 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now I know where I'm at. Okay. So then she says, okay, now she starts talking about this. She says, all of the wars we are seeing, they are a distraction to keep us from seeing all of the sexual abuse. It's deep and worldwide. So she was talking, I couldn't quite understand it, and I was a little bit tired. The war between Israel and Saudi, is it Saudi? Whatever Arab country Israel's fighting. Iran? Oh yeah, I think it's Iran, right? Isn't Israel fighting Iran? I think it is. Whoever the hell Israel's fighting. They've been fighting everybody. Anyway, that doesn't really matter. What matters is these wars, and these wars that are happening, all these wars, and you always wonder why is the Orange Menace involved in trying to stop the war between Russia and Ukraine or Israel? He's always has he's always butting into their wars because they want to keep our attention on these wars, keep our attention everywhere else, because all this sexual abuse of children is going on. That's the point. Okay, then she goes back to this. She says they separate and sexually abuse their children. These are people who are in the cult of Baal. They separate their children. Separating their children is control and keeps you hoping you will see them again. So horrible. Okay, when she was older, She went to the FBI to plead her case. The FBI interviewed her father, and her father said it wasn't true. So they closed the case. Okay, I'll keep going. Listen to this. Then this is why they closed the case. She says politicians who are born into the world have a vested interest in keeping it quiet. So the people she reported it to, they were in the cult of Baal. And that's why they did nothing about it and they closed it up real quick. That's why this has been going on for so long, because there's so many people in this, in our government. It's insane. Okay, she says she's been painted to be crazy. And why would I, and she goes, but then she says, why would I choose to talk about these things that are so vile? Okay, then he asked her, he goes, why do you choose as your platform to talk about all of this? Why did you choose TikTok? She goes, okay, so here we go. She says she says in TikTok, she's in TikTok telling her story. Okay, so I joined her already. She chose it because it's not controlled by Meta, Facebook. It's not controlled by okay, and then she says the US wants to get rid of TikTok because you have more free speech on that platform. She said no one heard her story until she went on TikTok. So TikTok is the reason she's on there. So she has to tell her story in short little spurts. But she said when she went to other platforms to tell her story, they would get rid of her story. Okay, now she goes back to Bohemian Grove. Oh my God, listen to this. Bohemian Grove, that's a cabin in the woods where they would have their satanic rituals where they would rape children. And I think she said people were sacrificed also. Bohemian Grove and the Clintons. The Clintons went to these gatherings where she and other children were present, where these rapings were happening. Allegedly. Then he asked her about Virginia's death, the interviewer. She says Virginia's death is very suspicious. She does not believe that she committed suicide. She said, in fact, she said, I've watched 2 interviews, but I think she says this. She says, if you look at it, lots of people who are about to testify or testify die. Then she says, if they hurt, okay, and then he said, are you scared? And she says, if they hurt her, it only validates what she's been talking about. TikTok, if they hurt, okay, because she's always on TikTok every day talking about her story about all these things, okay? And she has millions and millions of followers, I guess. And she says, if they hurt her, this becomes a bigger story. And she's right, because she's all over TikTok, okay, with this whole thing. Okay. Okay, last page here. Okay, then she says, most people at the top of politics are compromised. That is why and she said there are way more Republicans. She goes, it just happens that there's way more Republicans in this whole mess than there are Democrats. Way more. Because it's mostly Republicans. And that's why you see them making these decisions. Doesn't that make sense? You see the Republican Party, the Senate and the House, always voting for things against their own interests, things they don't even want to vote for, because they're under the fist of cabal. Either in cabal, not cabal, just Baal, cult of Baal. Either in the cult of Baal, or they've done stuff to get themselves compromised. Okay, then she talks about this. Orange Menace talked about bringing down the New York elites in his campaign. But once he gets into the White House, it stops. It stopped. He did this both times. He talked about bringing down the elites, and then when he gets in there, he don't talk about that no more. The first time and the second time. And look what's happened. And look why MAGA's so pissed. Because this to them, this whole thing with Epstein is bringing down the elites, bringing down the deep state. And now he's telling them, if you believe in this Epstein thing, you're stupid. You're an idiot. Okay, this is what she says now. She says, they want to keep us, they want us kept busy and poor. So we are not unified. Because when we are unified, we are more powerful. Politicians not born into this are made to get caught up in this. This way, they can't snitch on what they see or experience. Same thing in Hollywood and the music industry. So if you're not in the cult of Baal, they'll get you caught up. Okay? You go to some party, you get drugged, you get raped, and you get taped. Now, haven't we heard this a lot of times before? Yes. Look at Puff Daddy. Look at Weinstein. Look at Cosby. I just keep going with these rapists. Now, this was interesting. So I'll just read what she said, then I'll explain something. She said, black men wearing dresses after they are famous. This is a way of saying I had to submit to get there. It's a message to the cult of Baal, and it's a message to each other. Okay, so then this is me talking because I took some notes. I went and looked it up, and there are a lot of famous black men wearing dresses. Like the most famous ones have a dress on. But I looked it up. I said, aren't there white men and Mexican men too who this happens to? Oh, yes. I looked it up, and there are just as many white men showing. There are just as many white men wearing dresses. Okay. Now this is just type in famous white men. Just type in famous men wearing dresses. And she says it means that they had to give it up to get where they're at. So then I looked up, just after looked up black men, there's tons of black men, famous black men wearing dresses. It's a trip. And I'm not saying that that's bad. Okay. If you're trans, you need to do what you need to do. If you feel like you were born a woman and you're a man, you feel like you're a man born a woman, whatever. I totally support you. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is they're making you dress up like a woman and take pictures as a woman, to humiliate you and to control you and to let you know we have the thumb on you. Okay. And it's a message to everybody in, the cult of Baal and also to the other men. So everybody knows you gave it up, which means you had to give up your manhood. Okay. This is a trip what I'm about to say. There's a picture of Bill Clinton in a dress, and he's sitting in this chair with his legs crossed, wearing a dress, mini dress, wig on, makeup, wig, everything. Okay, it's a trip. They showed the picture, and she says, allegedly, Bill engaged in sexual acts where he was in the receiving end. He was probably forced to engage in acts with children that he didn't want to. She says men are forced to wear a dress when they have been taken by force or been forced to take a body they didn't want to take. It's a message to others. Submission is equated to femininity. Bill had to submit one way or another. Now, okay, I want to tell you some things here. In the Puff Daddy case, somebody was on. They were under oath, and they were talking about this black man who had been raped, and because he had been raped, he had to wear a dress and walk around the party the whole time. And he had to do this because it was taped, and he was told that if he doesn't do this, humiliate himself, that the tape is going to be, everyone's going to see it. So people didn't know, like, why is he wearing a dress? That's why. Now, she said that Puff Daddy is in the cult of Baal. Do you see how things are correlating? What we're hearing about now and what we're seeing and what she's saying, it just... Now, I was thinking, why did Bill have to submit one way or the other? And what I'm thinking, this is just my thoughts on this, and everything I say is allegedly. My thoughts on this were that, why would he get himself involved in, I mean, unless he's always been in the cult of Baal, I'm not sure. Well, he's in the cult of Baal. Why did he get into the cult of Baal? Has his family always been in the cult of Baal? What the hell happened? Did he do this because, okay, when you're going to run for president, you need a lot of money. So these are the elites. These are the people who give you the money. Did he do this to get the money to run for president? I don't really know about that part. That's just the part that I'm kind of like, you know, what the hell? 2, 3, 4, 5. Just 1 second, you guys. Okay. I think we're going to read some cards here. Just 1 second. Okay, we're going to read some cards here, and yeah, we're going to read cards on what we've read so far. Then we'll have part 3. Okay. Okay. Let me make sure what cards we should use. Clear, clear, spirit, clear, clear, spirit. What we've read so far. Should we use true crime? What we've read so far? Yes. Okay. And the reason I pretty much know is I feel it in my bones that it's true crime. And also, that's what it told me yesterday. So let me shuffle, and then we'll see what messages what the guides want to tell us. Okay. So open read on what we just read. Okay. Oh, I do want to say this really quick. I was just watching I just watched a video on this. Did you see where Epstein was being interviewed, and they asked him under oath? They said, "Can you tell us if you have ever hung out with Trump? Have you ever hung out with Trump and women under 18?" He goes, "I would love to tell you. I would love to answer that, but I'm gonna have to plead the 5th, the 14th, and something else." Okay, this fell out. Death. What the hell is this? I believe this means this is the death of the Orange Menace's presidency, but we'll find out. Okay, that fell out of the cards when I was doing it. Jealousy, that's the Orange Menace, and that's feminine energy right there. So that's the Orange Menace and his victims. Or Epstein and his victims. They're one and the same. Disgusting. Motel, hotel, that looks shady as hell. Shady dealings. This is the child sex ring. All right, so we got the death. I believe this whole thing is going to be the death of his presidency. Right after, I believe, the stolen election. Missing. Is this the votes that are missing? Is this missing children? We're going to find out. Yeah, definitely. This whole cult of Baal and the Orange Menace and Epstein, there's so much cleanup that needs to happen. It's disgustingly horrible. The Orange Menace, Epstein, the cult of Baal, they're all trash. I would say this is abuse to children and abuse of power. Tons of lies that we're going to find out. Shocker. People have been meeting about this mess. There have been meetings, there are talks going on about this, how are we going to handle this Epstein thing. Also, there's meetings with the Orange Menace about how he's going to handle this Epstein thing on both sides. Look at this. Crime of passion. Look at all the victims. This is telling us that this cult of ball practice is happened. It's saying it's happened with Epstein. It's happened with the Orange Menace, allegedly. This it's happened with people in the entertainment industry, with politicians. Look at all the victims. Disgusting. I don't know what the word love has to do with anything. Only thing I can see in this is this nasty heart. Look at that heart, ain't good. I think this is about the Orange Menace's health. I think that this is going to give him literally a heart attack. Okay? Because he's wearing a mask right now. That suit is a mask. His money is a mask. The presidency is a mask for him being a pedophile. Allegedly. Clear. Spirit. The death card. Is this the death of his presidency? Is that what this is? Yes. Okay. Clear. Spirit. Missing. Are you talking about missing children? Is that what you're talking about here? No. Thank God. Clear. Spirit. Is this the missing votes, like the stolen election? Yes. So are you telling us, Clear. Spirit, are you telling us first he's going to be removed because of the stolen election? Yes. Clear. Spirit, is the second reason because he's a pedophile? Yes. Clear. Let's go see if I was going to ask. Okay, I think that's it. Let's see if I was going to ask any other question. I had another question I was going to ask. Okay. I think we got the point here. All right, you guys, we got one more part to read on this, and we'll pull cards on that, okay? So, look for the third part. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd love for you to do so. You can give this video a thumbs up. Any comments or questions, leave them below. Anything you want me to read on, leave it below. Take care of yourself, you guys. We're in it now. We're not waiting. We're in it, okay? Things are coming fast like we were told. We're being shocked like we were told. Now, the only thing we're waiting for is for this to finish up and the Orange Menace to be removed. Love, peace, and happiness, and I will talk to you guys in the third video. All right. Bye, guys.